Hi everyone, this is Intro from Heart to Heart, and this episode I just wanted to share a little bit about our philosophy and also one of the examples for our pre-wedding process. Ultimately, the main reason why we actually do weddings in the first place. And when we actually talk to our couples, there's always a defining why to your love story and not just happily ever after towards the end. Of course, we all love the ending and the crescendo of everything of your own wedding story, but there's always a defining moment of why that leads to the wedding day. So that's where pre-wedding films actually comes in very handy. And today we just want to go through one of the examples that we did that could actually tie to your actual day, and also the process of how we actually find the story in your own wedding day. Okay, before we jump into that in-depth example, I would like to share a little bit of our belief and our why, our own version of why. So first in place, we always believe there's a legacy. There's a reason that you want to create a pre-wedding film because you wanted to tell your story, your version, and it's not really just for social media, and it's not just a spur of a moment. When we are approaching your pre-wedding film, we are actually talking about reaching to your legacy, where we really want this film that we created to tell your kids, your grandkids in future, where you can rewatch it over and over again, and not just about your actual day. Imagine your wedding film is like a movie, or you can compare to an era where your grandpa or grandma, like when you actually first see their wedding photos, or even your own parents, wedding like 30 years ago, and you get to see when they are very young, when they are right at your age right now, like the early 20s, late 20s, or even the early 30s, their moment. But most of them don't really have, during that period, don't even have a film to begin with, so most of them are actually on static photos. But I want your film to be the start of a legacy where your future kids can be able to refer, a motion picture and actually tell your own grandkids in future, like, hey, this is how grandpa actually meets. And I think that's where we started Heart to Heart. That's the very core of what we believe in, and that's where everything started from there. We usually have 1 or 2 Zoom sessions way before the filming starts, and that's where we get to know the couple. And we don't just go straight to the shoot without knowing anything about the couple. We don't dive into that. So me and Tangi always have this belief that the more you open up in this process where we get to know you, the better and actually the more easy flowing the whole actual shoot is gonna be, and the outcome of the video is gonna be even more natural. Yeah, of course, talking about natural, couples usually have this like awkward face and actually tell us like, oh, we are not very cameragenic. Camera always see us very awkwardly, and it's just very hard to get the emotions out. But no worries. Our belief is always we don't try to script too much. We don't try to pose too much for our couples, and really let the activities that we're gonna do, let it define the expression from there. Because we don't believe in just stand there and just listen to us, but we want you to be part of the project and really be having fun. So using the having fun part, we can bring out the emotions from there, and we can actually instruct from there much easier than just like stand there and pose. I think that's how we generally have our couples to be in the vibe of being natural and just being themselves. So once we have the date confirmed, we will have a checklist that we will send an email to our couples so that they can be prepared. And when I say prepared, it's more of like, the outfits, the more visual aspect, props, things like that could actually enhance the flavor of pre-wedding. Okay, so that is the whole planning part, and like how we actually place our couple in the perfect situation to tell their story. And that's where we come to the example of Charmaine and Guan Hui. Okay, so at the start you can see we're actually being quite playful and try to pluck out the funny parts of the shoot. We never know what's going to happen, so we wanted to kind of put some light-hearted stuff at the start, so to really just kind of like make it funny. Then we go into the more serious stuff, with the more solemn stuff. We kind of mix this thing together to kind of create the contrast of a pre-wedding film. Then it was just a casual walk. and we just mic them up and just ask a few simple questions to kind of get them warm up. So the first few questions are usually more warmed up questions, and recently we tried this approach where we try not to like put a tripod and just like shoot in the face of a couple. We will just let them kind of like have a conversation between themselves, and I'll film around that situation. So it doesn't mean that it's always like a front headshot and it's constantly there, because we know you guys as couples are very awkward at the very start, and just like talking like straight to your face is a little bit intimidating. So this is why we have this type of approach when we are shooting pre-wedding films. We will kind of pace the couple depending on the mood, and if they feel like they want to answer this type of questions, then they will go ahead and answer. If they're not very comfortable or they are still not there yet, maybe I usually wouldn't, like me and Taki usually wouldn't jump straight to like serious questions. We'll kind of build out the mood, you know, get the tempo right, and we feel the couple. We just kind of pace it depending on the couple's at that moment kind of a feeling. So one of the milestones is overseas studies. Kwan Hui went overseas, you know, when they were dating, and when they're overseas, they felt like their relationship grew stronger, even though it's a long distance relationship where a lot of relationship usually fails. For them, they actually bear it through. Well, this is one of the most toughest time where the relationship put to the test. And in the overseas trip, Kwan Hui actually met two important life moments where it actually concrete that Shermin's love for him and his love for her. Went through two accidents in the US, and that's where he actually shared one of the most vulnerable parts of their lives, and we just felt like we should add into the pre-wedding film. Another milestone that they kind of defined their relationship within that just a short year was Kwan Hui's dad. Just passed away months before, I think 4 to 5 months before the actual day. So we just tell them that if there's any like news about the family or any changes of anything before the wedding day, do let us know. And because they are very open and we are very thankful that they actually be vulnerable with us before the shoot. So we kind of know, okay, there are a few elements that's in play before we go to the pre-wedding shoot. It's not as straightforward as the kind of normal approach. So from there, I also tell them before the shoot to be open with the questions, and if they're uncomfortable, they can actually kind of like reject to answer. But it's really just everything on the table. So that day, once everything is more settled down, I wanted to kind of ask that 2 milestone questions. That is usually about 75% of the shoot that is completed. We actually asked about his dad, and if his dad is still around, how would he feel to have Shermin as a daughter-in-law, and how would his dad feel knowing that they're going to get married and tie the knot. So this type of more sensitive questions are placed strategically so that they are in the most perfect position to actually answer without feeling too off or too early. Yeah, so they actually manage to answer really well depending on how it feels. And also, fun fact, we actually stitched this part into their same day edit film, because we actually had to do their same day edit, and we've just felt like the narrative that is with the dad inside would actually match perfectly, because parents are one of the most important elements in the wedding day. And even though Kwan Hui's dad is not there physically anymore, we just wanted something that is more concrete. Kwan Hui actually wore his dad watch on the wedding day, so their physical token could represent the storyline that could actually fit very well for the actual day, which actually has an impact because we did the pre-wedding films. Then of course towards the end, there'll be more of like a little short confession that they want to share with each other right before they tie the knot. I think when you're sharing something as a man and wife, and you're sharing something before you're a man and wife, there's 2 different phases of life, and we wanted them to kind of like just share without preparing anything. But of course, if you are not confident, we actually do suggest our couples to prepare a set of vows. It's not really like the kind of a sumpah, like I blah blah blah, marry you as a wife and something. It's not like that kind, but we wanted like the more authentic kind, like, you know. Usually some couples were based on religion, some couples were based on their experience and their milestones to kind of anchor their vows from there. So it's just more of like sharing their thoughts. So they just share a quick part of their vows, and of course what they want to share with each other in that film. Then if you can see like towards the end of the film, you can see like a full-on picture that they had that was kind of like overlay with all the films that we have captured. Fun fact, that photo, kind of panning shot with all the photos, are not from us. We actually request our couples to send us as much media files, photos, videos, from their past, from their phone, from whichever that they actually captured from, to send to us so that we can stitch it into their films. Because we always feel like, the things that you captured for yourselves, all that little quirky stuff that you do, like Insta stories, anything that you have done with your partner is the most valuable assets. And no matter how well we capture the pre-wedding or the actual day, nothing can compare with that. It's as good as last time where you have a camcorder and you actually kind of like physically hold and film it, and you rewatch it like 10 years now, and that kind of raw impact, because the sound that is being captured, you can never have that ever again. And to see that live again after 10-20 years is really quite cool. So for us to stitch that in, it creates a legacy, and like it actually creates another layer. And it's not just a look good, feel good kind of thing, but it really creates that kind of layer that we want for our films, so that it makes sense. It's not just everything captured on site and everything is then and there, but I want the story to have a thick timeline, of media that is stitched into one impactful film. So that is the general vibe that we kind of like approach a pre-wedding film, and I hope that actually explains how we curate, and we also hope to continue to create more pre-wedding films for our couples, for legacy piece, with our belief system and with our visual aspect to kind of complement that idea. So we hope that we can be the one that execute for you, and we hope that really helps a lot. So again, this is Yan Chong from Heart to Heart. Really hope to be able to serve you for your pre-wedding films needs, and let's hear your story and let's see how it goes. Cheers!